Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the TDF Valkyrie and watched the stars through the main viewport. His ship moved slowly through the dark space at the edge of human territory. This was patrol duty, the kind of work that most captains found boring. Morrison did not find it boring. He knew what happened out here in the dark places between the stars. The alarm sounded 3 short beeps. Lieutenant Amy Carter looked up from her station with wide eyes. She was young, maybe 20, 5 years old, and this was only her second patrol mission. She had joined the crew 6 months ago, fresh from the academy on Mars. "Captain, I have a contact on sensors," Carter said. Her voice shook just a little. "Unknown vessel approaching from Sector 7. Distance is 200,000 kilometers. And closing." Morrison walked to the tactical display. The green dot showed an alien ship moving toward the boundary line. The boundary line was invisible, but everyone in human space knew where it was. On one side was human territory. On the other side was the rest of the galaxy. No alien ship was supposed to cross that line. "What type of ship?" Morrison asked. Carter worked at her controls for a moment. "The computer says it matches Zephyrian design patterns. Scout-class vessel with light weapons and advanced sensors. Crew of maybe 15 or 20. Morrison nodded. He had dealt with Zephyrians before. They were tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. They thought they were smart because they had good technology. They were about to learn that being smart was not enough. "Send them a warning message," Morrison said. "Standard protocol. Tell them they have entered restricted space and must turn back immediately." Carter sent the message. They waited for 2 minutes, but there was no reply. The alien ship kept moving toward the boundary line. Morrison was not surprised. Most alien species thought humans were weak because human space was small. They had forgotten why human space existed at all. "Captain, incoming transmission," Carter said. "They are responding to our warning. Put it on screen." The main display showed the bridge of the alien ship. A Zephyrian in a blue uniform stood in the center. His skin was the color of old metal, and his eyes were like black mirrors. When he spoke, the computer translated his words into English. "Human, vessel. This is Commander Vex Ka of the exploration ship Brightwing. We do not recognize any territorial claims in this region. Our star charts show this area as unexplored void. We are conducting a peaceful survey mission under the authority of the Galactic Survey Council." Morrison stepped forward. "Commander Vex Ka, you have crossed into human space without permission. By the terms of the Solar Accords, you must leave immediately or face the consequences." The alien commander looked confused. "Human space? We have no records of any human settlements in this sector. In fact, we have no records of humans at all. What are these Solar Accords you mention?" Carter looked at Morrison with surprise. She had never heard of aliens who did not know about humans. Morrison was not surprised. The galaxy had a short memory when it came to things they did not want to remember. "Sir," Carter whispered, "maybe we should contact Fleet Command. This could be important. First contact with a species that has never encountered humans before." Morrison shook his head. "No. We follow standing orders." He turned back to the screen. Commander Vex Ka was talking to someone off camera. Morrison could hear other voices in the background. They sounded excited. The aliens thought they had discovered something new. "Commander Vex Ka," Morrison said, "I will ask you one more time. Turn your ship around and leave this sector. If you refuse, we will consider you hostile." The alien commander turned back to face the screen. "Human, your threats mean nothing to us. We are a peaceful scientific mission. We will not be turned away by one small warship. Stand aside and let us pass." Morrison smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Amy, target their engines and weapons. Prepare to fire." Carter's face went pale. "Sir, they said they are peaceful. Maybe we should try to talk to them first, learn about their culture. This could be a chance for diplomacy." "There is no diplomacy out here," Morrison said. "There is. Only the boundary. They crossed it, they die. Those are the rules." "But sir, the regulations say we should attempt peaceful contact when possible." Morrison turned to look at his young officer. Carter was smart and she meant well, but she did not understand. She had grown up safe inside human space. She had never seen what happened when humans trusted aliens. She had never read the old files from before the war. Amy, I am going to tell you something that they do not teach at the academy. 300 years ago, humans tried peaceful contact. We tried diplomacy. We tried to be part of the galactic community. Do you know what happened? Carter shook her head. They tried to wipe us out, Morrison said. 6 different species working together. They came to our worlds with weapons and fire. They killed billions of humans. Men, women, children. They did not care. They wanted us gone because they were afraid of what we might become. Morrison walked back to the tactical display. The alien ship was still approaching the boundary. The only reason we survived is because our ancestors fought back. They fought harder and meaner than anyone thought humans could fight. And when the aliens ran away, our ancestors made a promise. No alien ship would ever threaten human space again. Ever. Carter was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "What about the rules of war? What about showing mercy?" Morrison laughed. It was a cold sound. Mercy is what the strong show to the weak. Out here, we are the strong ones. Fire on their engines. Valkyrie's weapons fired. Blue energy beams crossed the darkness and hit the alien ship. The bright wing shuddered and began to spin. Smoke poured from holes in its hull. On the screen, Commander Vexka was shouting orders to his crew. The bridge was full of sparks and alarms. Several Zephyrians were lying on the floor. One of them was not moving. "Human ship, we surrender," Vexka said. "We did not know about your territory. We will leave immediately. Please stop firing." Morrison watched the damaged alien ship try to turn around. "Amy, target their reactor." "Sir, they are surrendering. They want to leave. And they will leave. In pieces." The Valkyrie fired again. This time the beams hit the Bright Wing's reactor core. The alien ship disappeared in a bright flash of light. Where it had been, there was only empty space and small bits of metal floating in the dark. Carter stared at the empty space where the alien ship had been. Her hands were shaking. "They surrendered," she said quietly. Morrison sat down in his captain's chair. "Amy, make a note in the log. Alien vessel destroyed for violation of territorial boundaries. No survivors. Border integrity maintained." He looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, other alien ships were probably wondering what happened to the Bright Wing. In a few months, they would send another ship to investigate. Morrison would be waiting for that one too. The galaxy thought human space was small and weak. They thought the boundary lines were just marks on old maps. They were wrong. The boundary lines were written in blood, and Jake Morrison was one of the men who kept them that way. Dr. Lisa Park knelt in the dirt and carefully brushed dust away from the metal panel. The sun was setting over the ruins of old Boston on the planet New Geneva, and her team was running out of daylight. They had been digging in this spot for 3 weeks, and finally they had found something important. "Dr. Park, look at this," called her assistant, a young man named Danny Walsh. He was standing near a hole in the ground about 10 meters away. "I think I found a door." Lisa stood up and walked over to see what Danny had discovered. Half buried in the red dirt was a metal hatch with strange symbols carved into its surface. The symbols were definitely human, but they were old, much older, than anything they usually found in the ruins. "This looks like pre-war construction," Lisa said. "Maybe even first colony era. Help me clear away the dirt." The 2 scientists worked together to uncover the hatch. It was made of some kind of advanced metal that had not rusted even after being buried for centuries. When they finally got it clean, Lisa could see that the symbols spelled out words in Old English. The words said, "Emergency Archive, authorized personnel only." Danny looked confused. "An archive? I thought this was just an old residential area." Lisa shook her head. "This is much more important than old houses. Emergency archives were only built during times of great crisis. Whatever is down there, someone thought it was important enough to hide. It took them 2 hours to figure out how to open the hatch. The lock was electronic, but the power had died long ago. Lisa had to use a portable generator to bring the systems back online. When the hatch finally opened, a ladder led down into darkness. Lisa climbed down first with a flashlight. The underground room was small, but it was filled with computer equipment and storage devices. Everything was covered in dust, but the dry air had preserved it well. This was not just an archive. This was a command center. "Danny, bring down the portable power unit," Lisa called. "We need to get these computers working." When the lights came on, Lisa could see that the room was more complex than she had thought. There were 3 computer terminals, a communications array, and dozens of data storage units. On the walls were maps of star systems that Lisa did not recognize. At the center of the main map was a small cluster of stars labeled Human Colonial Territory. Danny climbed down into the room and looked around with wide eyes. "Doctor, this equipment is ancient. Some of these computers are over 400 years old." Lisa was already working at the main terminal. "That makes sense. Look at the date stamps on these files. The newest ones are from 2387. That was just before the Great Isolation began." The Great Isolation was what historians called the period when humanity stopped expanding into space and pulled back to their current territory. No one knew exactly why it had happened. The official records just said that humans had decided to focus on developing their existing worlds instead of exploring new ones. Lisa accessed the first set of files and began to read. What she found made her hands shake with excitement. These were not just historical records. These were communications logs from humanity's first contact with alien civilizations. "Danny, you need to see this," Lisa said. "According to these files, humans were part of a galactic community 400 years ago. We had trade agreements with dozens of alien species. We had colonies on over 100 worlds." Danny leaned over her shoulder to read the screen. "But that is impossible. Everyone knows that humans have always been alone in space. We have never had contact with aliens." Lisa kept reading. The files showed that humanity had joined something called the Galactic Trade Federation in 2341. Human ships had traveled to alien worlds, and alien ships had visited human colonies. There were detailed reports about alien technology, alien cultures, and alien politics. But as Lisa read deeper into the files, the tone of the reports began to change. The early files were full of excitement about joining galactic civilization. The later files were full of worry and fear. One report from 2384 caught Lisa's attention. It was written by someone named Admiral Kate Sullivan, who was apparently the commander of the human colonial fleet. The report said that several alien species were becoming concerned about human expansion and adaptability. The Hegemony Council has formally requested that human colonization be limited to our current territory, Admiral Sullivan had written. They claim that unrestricted human expansion poses a threat to galactic stability. Ambassador Chen has been working to find a compromise, but I fear the aliens have already made up their minds about us. Lisa scrolled to the next report. This one was dated 3 months later, and the tone was much more serious. Intelligence reports indicate that the Zephyrians, Krell Hegemony, and 4 other major powers are planning coordinated action against human colonies. They intend to destroy our ability to expand beyond the inner systems. President Martinez has authorized me to prepare for the worst-case scenario. The final report was dated December 15th, 2387. Lisa read it aloud to Danny. The attacks have begun. Alien fleets have destroyed the colonies on New Horizon, Far Haven, and 17 other worlds. Billions of humans are dead. The enemy is using weapons we have never seen before. Our fleet is falling back to the inner systems, but I do not know if we can hold them there. If anyone reads this, remember what they did to us. Remember, and make them pay. Lisa sat back in her chair. She felt sick to her stomach. Everything she had been taught about human history was wrong. Humans had not chosen isolation. They had been forced into it by alien species who saw them as a threat. "There is more," Danny said. He had been reading over her shoulder, and now he was pointing at another file. "Look at this one. It is dated after the attacks." Lisa opened the new file. This one was from someone named General Ben Hayes. The file was marked Classification Level Omega, Final Protocol Authorization. The file contained orders for something called the Silent Response Initiative. Lisa read the details with growing horror. General Hayes was ordering human forces to go underground. to hide their true strength and to begin systematic retaliation against the alien species who had attacked them. "We cannot match them in open warfare," General Hayes had written, "but we can make them pay in other ways. We will hunt their ships in the dark between stars. We will make them afraid to venture near human space. We will teach them that caging a predator only makes it more dangerous." The last part of the file contained a list of target species and their known weaknesses. There were detailed plans for biological weapons, stealth attacks, and psychological warfare. At the bottom of the file was a single line that made Lisa's blood run cold. "The galaxy wanted us to disappear. We will grant their wish. But when we emerge from the shadows, we will no longer be the species they tried to destroy." Lisa and Danny spent the next several hours reading through hundreds of files. They learned about secret weapons programs, hidden military bases, and covert operations against alien targets. They learned that the Great Isolation was actually a carefully planned deception designed to make the galaxy think that humans had been defeated. The final file in the archive was a personal message from Admiral Sullivan. It was addressed to future generations of humanity. "If you are reading this, then we succeeded in preserving our species. The aliens thought they could destroy us, but they only taught us how to become destroyers ourselves. We have given you the tools and knowledge to take back what was stolen from us. The question is not whether you will use them. The question is whether you will show them the same mercy they showed us." Lisa closed the file and looked at Danny. The young man's face was pale, and his hands were shaking. "Doctor," Danny said quietly, "what do we do with this information? Do we tell people? Do we report this to the government?" Lisa thought about that question for a long time. Outside, the sun had set and the ruins of old Boston were dark and quiet. Somewhere up in space, she knew that human ships were patrolling the borders of human territory. Now she understood what they were really doing out there. "We tell no one," Lisa said finally. "Not yet. First, we need to understand what this means for us now. The people who wrote these files, they are probably still alive. Their children and grandchildren are running our government, our military, our entire civilization." Lisa looked around the archive one more time. All of this had been hidden for 3 centuries, waiting for someone to find it. Someone had wanted future generations to know the truth about what had happened to humanity. "Danny, I think we just discovered the most dangerous secret in human history, and I do not think we are ready for what it means." She picked up one of the data storage devices and put it in her bag. Tomorrow she would begin the careful work of verifying these files and learning more about humanity's hidden past. But tonight, she would try to sleep and hope that she had not just opened a door that should have stayed closed forever. Colonel Ben Hayes sat in his private quarters aboard the stealth ship Ghost Rider and opened his personal journal. Outside his small window, the stars looked cold and distant. He had been hunting aliens in the dark spaces between worlds for 15 years, and tonight he wanted to write about what that meant. Entry date: March 15th, 2687, another successful mission today. We tracked a Krell survey team to the Epsilon sector and eliminated them before they could report back to their base. 6 ships destroyed, no survivors, no evidence left behind. The Krell will add this to their list of unexplained disappearances and continue to avoid human space like the plague they think it is. Hayes put down his pen for a moment and rubbed his tired eyes. He was 43 years old and he had spent more than half his life killing aliens. Sometimes he wondered what he might have been if humanity had never been attacked. Maybe a teacher or an engineer or a farmer like his grandfather had been. But aliens had destroyed that possibility along with everything else. He picked up his pen and continued writing. My father was 17 years old when the attacks began. He used to tell me stories about the early days when humans thought they could be friends with the galaxy. He said people were excited about alien contact. They thought it meant humanity would learn wonderful new things and explore strange new worlds. Dad was wrong about that. The only thing humanity learned from alien contact was how to kill aliens more efficiently. Hayes turned the page and wrote about his first mission. He had been 25 years old and fresh out of the Advanced Warfare Academy on Luna. His commander had been Captain Kate Sullivan, the daughter of the famous Admiral Sullivan who had saved humanity during the war. I still remember what Captain Sullivan told us before that first mission. She said that the galaxy had taught humanity a simple lesson about survival. In space, there are only predators and prey. The aliens had chosen to make us prey, so we chose to become predators instead. Our target was a Zephyrian research station in the Outer Rim. They were studying something called human behavioral patterns, using data they had stolen from our destroyed colonies. Captain Sullivan said they were trying to understand us so they could finish what they started 300 years ago. We hit the station at night when most of the crew was sleeping. We used silent weapons and moved like ghosts through their corridors. I killed my first alien that night, a young Zephyrian scientist who was working late in his laboratory. He looked up at me with those big black eyes and tried to say something, but I put a plasma bolt through his chest before he could make a sound. Afterward, Captain Sullivan asked me how I felt about it. I told her I felt nothing at all. She smiled and said that was exactly the right answer. Feeling nothing meant I understood what we were fighting for. We were not fighting for revenge or anger. We were fighting for survival. Hayes flipped through several pages of his journal. There were entries about dozens of missions over the years, raids on alien colonies, ambushes of exploration fleets, the systematic elimination of anyone who got too close to human territory. Entry date, June 8, 2600 TDU. Major Williams gave us our orders for Operation Dark Star today. We are going to hit a Hegemony Council meeting on Kepler Prime. Intelligence says that 12 species will be represented, including the ones who planned the original attacks on humanity. This will be the biggest operation in Reaper Squadron history. 40 stealth ships, 200 elite soldiers, and enough firepower to crack a small moon. We are going to send a message that the galaxy will never forget. The funny thing is, they still do not know who is doing this to them. They call us the Shadow Fleet, and they think we are pirates or rogue AI or some kind of space monsters. The idea that humans might be responsible never occurs to them. We have been forgotten so completely that we have become invisible. Hayes smiled as he remembered that mission. Operation Dark Star had been a complete success. 12 alien ambassadors dead, their entire security fleet destroyed, and no evidence left behind to identify the attackers. The galactic news networks had called it the greatest mystery in civilized space. He turned to a more recent entry. Entry date, October 12, 2699. Lieutenant Carter joined the squadron today. She is young and eager, and she reminds me of myself 15 years ago. I can see the hunger in her eyes, the need to prove that she belongs with the Reapers. Carter asked me why we do not just reveal ourselves to the galaxy. She said that humanity is strong enough now to fight them openly. She does not understand that open war is not our goal. Our goal is to make them afraid. I told her about the old days when humans tried to be part of galactic civilization. I explained how the aliens had responded to human friendship with violence and betrayal. Then I told her about the new days, when humans learned to respond to alien violence with something much worse. Fear is a better weapon than any plasma cannon. When alien crews refuse missions near human space, when their governments cancel exploration programs, when their children have nightmares about the monsters that live in the dark, that is when we know we are winning. Hayes closed his journal and walked to the window. In the distance, he could see the lights of the Ghost Rider's sister ships, 12 stealth vessels moving silently through the void, hunting for new targets. He thought about Lieutenant Carter and the questions she had asked. She wanted to know why they did not try to make peace with the aliens, why they did not give diplomacy another chance. Hayes had tried to explain, but he was not sure she understood. Hayes opened his journal one more time and wrote a final entry for the night. Entry date, November 3, 2698. Carter asked me today if I ever think about the aliens we kill. She wanted to know if I see their faces in my dreams or feel guilty about destroying their homes. I told her the truth. I do think about them, but not in the way she means. I think about them the same way a farmer thinks about wolves that threaten his livestock. I do not hate them and I do not enjoy killing them, but I will not let them threaten what is mine. The aliens made a choice 300 years ago when they tried to destroy humanity. They chose to be wolves instead of neighbors. That choice had consequences, and we are those consequences. Every alien ship we destroy, every colony we eliminate, every ambassador we assassinate, it is all payment for what they did to us. The debt is not paid in full yet. It will not be paid for a long time. But someday, when the galaxy has learned to fear human space the way they fear black holes and supernovas, maybe then we can stop hunting. Maybe then we can go home and live in peace. Until that day comes, we are the predators and they are the prey. That is the natural order of things in this galaxy, and we are just making sure everyone remembers their place. Hayes closed his journal and locked it in his personal safe. Tomorrow, the Ghost Rider would rendezvous with a Terran defense fleet cruiser to receive new orders. There were rumors about a major operation being planned, something that would make Operation Dark Star look small. Hayes was looking forward to it. After 15 years of hunting aliens in the shadows, he was ready for something bigger. Maybe it was time for humanity to step out of the dark and show the galaxy what they had become. He turned off the lights in his quarters and lay down on his bunk. Through the thin walls of the ship, he could hear the quiet hum of the engines and the soft voices of his crew. These people were his family now. They understood him in ways that civilians back home could never understand. Hayes closed his eyes and tried to sleep. In a few hours, they would reach their next target, another alien outpost that had gotten too close to human territory. Another opportunity to remind the galaxy that some boundaries should not be crossed. In his dreams, Hayes saw himself as a young man again, standing in that alien research station with Captain Sullivan. He remembered the look in the Zephyrian scientist's eyes just before he died. Not hatred or anger, just confusion. The alien had not understood why humans would kill him. Hayes had spent 15 years making sure that confusion spread throughout the galaxy. Let them wonder what happened to their missing ships and vanished colonies. Let them create myths and legends about the monsters that lived in human space. Fear and mystery were better weapons than the truth. The truth was that humanity had become exactly what the aliens had feared they would become. But now it was too late to stop them. Ambassador Claire Foster stood in the airlock of the neutral station and checked her equipment one last time. The meeting today would be the first official diplomatic contact between humanity and the Galactic Trade Federation in over 300 years. She was nervous, but not for the reasons the aliens might expect. The station was called Haven Point, and it floated in empty space between human territory and the core worlds of the galaxy. It had been built specifically for this meeting by the Federation as a gesture of good faith. Claire thought that was ironic considering what she knew about Federation good faith. The airlock opened, and Claire walked into a large conference room. Waiting for her was High Counselor Thane Moore of the Federation, along with representatives from 6 different alien species. Claire recognized most of them from the intelligence files she had studied. These were the descendants of the species that had tried to destroy humanity. High Counselor Thane Moore was a Krell, which meant he was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. He wore elaborate robes that marked him as a high-ranking official. When he spoke, his voice was deep and formal. Ambassador Foster, on behalf of the Galactic Trade Federation, I welcome you to Haven Point. We are honored by your presence here today. Claire smiled politely. Thank you, High Counselor. I am here to listen to what you have to say. The alien gestured toward a large table in the center of the room. Please, let us sit and discuss the future relationship between humanity and the Hydra galactic community. As they took their seats, Claire noticed that the aliens were being very careful to appear friendly and non-threatening. Their body language was open and welcoming. They spoke in soft tones and smiled frequently. Claire found their performance amusing. High Counselor Thane Moore activated a holographic display that showed a map of local space. Ambassador Foster, as you can see, human territory occupies a relatively small area on the galactic rim. We believe there is great potential for peaceful expansion and cooperation between our peoples. Claire studied the map. It showed human space as a small cluster of maybe 30 star systems. The aliens thought that was all humanity controlled. They were wrong about that, but Claire was not going to correct them yet. What kind of cooperation do you have in mind? Claire asked. A Zephyrian representative leaned forward. We would like to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Trade Federation. This would give your people access to advanced technology, unrestricted travel throughout civilized space, and protection under galactic law. Claire nodded thoughtfully. That sounds very generous. What would humanity need to do in return? High Counselor Thanemore consulted a datapad. Nothing unreasonable. We would simply ask that human expansion be coordinated through Federation oversight, that human military forces be integrated into the Galactic Defense Network, and that human technology development be subject to Federation safety standards. Claire almost laughed out loud. The aliens were offering humanity the same deal they had offered 300 years ago, the same deal that had led to the attacks and the near extinction of the human race. Did they really think humans would be stupid enough to accept it twice? I see, Claire said. And what about the historical issues between our peoples? The attacks that drove humanity into isolation? The High Counselor looked uncomfortable. Ambassador Foster, those events occurred many generations ago. The individuals responsible for past conflicts are long dead. Current Federation leadership had nothing to do with those unfortunate incidents. Claire reached into her briefcase and pulled out a small data device. High Counselor, I would like to share some information with you. This device contains recordings of recent Federation communications that we have been monitoring. The aliens looked surprised. A hegemony representative spoke up. You have been monitoring our communications? How is that possible? Claire activated the device and a holographic display appeared above the table. The first recording showed a Federation meeting from 2 years ago. In the recording, alien officials were discussing humanity as a potential threat that needed to be contained. As you can see, Claire said, your people are still concerned about human expansion. This recording shows Federation Council members discussing new containment protocols for human space. The second recording was more recent. It showed Federation military commanders planning reconnaissance missions into human territory. They were using the same language and the same strategies that their ancestors had used 3 centuries ago. High Counselor Thanemore was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Ambassador Foster, you must understand that the Federation has a responsibility to maintain galactic stability. Some precautionary measures are necessary when dealing with unknown factors. Claire played the third recording. This one showed Federation scientists discussing humans as a potential resource to be exploited. They talked about human adaptability and suggested that controlled breeding programs could produce useful hybrid species. Unknown factors? Claire asked. Is that what you call us? The aliens around the table began to look nervous. They whispered among themselves in their native languages. Claire did not need a translator to understand their concern. They were realizing that humanity knew much more about them than they had expected. Claire stood up from her chair and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the empty space between human territory and the rest of the galaxy. It looked peaceful, but she knew better. High Counselor, Claire said without turning around. Let me tell you what I think is really happening here. Your people have been watching human space for decades. You have been sending scout ships to test our defenses and map our territory. You have been planning for the day when you might need to deal with us again. She turned back to face the table. The problem is, some of those scout ships never came back. Some of your colonies near human space have gone silent. Some of your most important officials have disappeared without explanation, and you are starting to suspect that maybe humans are not as weak as you thought we were. High Counselor Thanemore's blue skin had turned pale. Ambassador Foster, what are you suggesting? Claire sat back down and smiled. I am suggesting that you are afraid. You are afraid that humanity has been doing more than just hiding in our small corner of space. You are afraid that we have been growing stronger while you forgot about us. And you are afraid that maybe, just maybe, we have been paying you back for what you did to us. The room was completely silent. The aliens stared at Claire with expressions of growing horror. Claire activated her data device one more time. The final recording showed a recent Federation intelligence briefing. In the recording, military analysts were trying to explain the disappearance of hundreds of ships and the destruction of dozens of colonies near human space. They called it the Silent War, and admitted that they had no idea who was responsible. "Hi, Counselor," Claire said quietly. "How many of your people have died in the past 3 centuries? How many ships have vanished? How many worlds have gone dark? Have you ever wondered if there might be a connection between those losses and what you did to humanity?" High Counselor Thanemore was shaking. "You are suggesting that humans have been conducting covert warfare against the Federation. That is impossible. Our intelligence services would have detected such activities." Claire laughed. "Your intelligence services have been watching for the wrong thing. You have been looking for human ships and human weapons and human soldiers, but we learned something important from you 3 centuries ago. We learned that the best way to fight a war is to make sure your enemy does not know they are in a war." She reached under her jacket and activated a small transmitter. It was a signal to the human fleet that had been shadowing the Federation, ships on their way to this meeting. "High Counselor, I want you to understand something very important. This meeting was never about diplomacy. It was about letting you know that your debts are coming due." The alien's 4 eyes went wide. "What debts?" "The debt you owe for the billions of humans you killed. The debt you owe for the worlds you destroyed. The debt you owe for 300 years of fear and isolation." Claire stood up again. "Did you really think we would forget? Did you think we would forgive?" The Federation representatives began talking frantically among themselves. Some of them were reaching for communication devices to call their ships. Claire shook her head. "I would not bother calling for help. Your escort fleet is already gone." Through the window, they could see bright flashes of light in the distance. The Federation ships that had brought the diplomats to Haven Point were being destroyed by human vessels that had been waiting in stealth. High Counselor Thanemore stood up from his chair. "This is an act of war, Ambassador Foster. The Federation will not tolerate such aggression." Claire walked toward the airlock. "High Counselor, this is not an act of war. This is the end of a war that you started 3 centuries ago. A war that you forgot about, but we never did." She paused at the airlock door and looked back at the terrified aliens. "I want you to take a message back to your Federation. Tell them that the galaxy is about to change. Tell them that humanity is no longer hiding in the shadows. And tell them that every ship they have lost, every colony that has vanished, every official who has disappeared, all of it was us." Admiral Tony Martinez stood on the bridge of the TDF Reckoning and watched the largest fleet in human history prepare for battle. 300 ships stretched out in formation around his flagship, their hull markings dark against the stars. This was the moment that 3 centuries of preparation had been leading toward. "Admiral, all fleet commanders are standing by for your address," said Captain Roy Chen, his second in command. Chen was a young officer, only 35 years old, but he had proven himself in dozens of covert operations along the border worlds. Martinez activated the fleet communication system. His words would be heard on every human warship in the formation, from massive dreadnoughts to small fighter craft. "This is Admiral Martinez addressing all vessels of Task Force Retribution. Today marks the end of humanity's long exile from galactic civilization. For 300 years we have hidden in the shadows while our enemies grew fat and comfortable. Today, we step into the light." On the tactical display, Martinez could see the target systems marked in red. They were core worlds of the Galactic Trade Federation, heavily populated and lightly defended. The aliens had never expected an attack from human space, because they thought human space was weak and small. "Our ancestors tried to live in peace with the galaxy," Martinez continued. "They offered friendship and cooperation. The galaxy responded with fire and death. Billions of our people died because we trusted aliens who saw us as a threat to their power." Martinez walked to the main viewport and looked out at his fleet. These ships represented the culmination of centuries of secret military development. Human technology had advanced far beyond what the aliens imagined possible. While they had grown lazy and weak, humanity had grown strong and deadly. The aliens thought they had caged us in this corner of space. They were wrong. We were never caged. We were hunting. The communication channels filled with voices as his fleet commanders acknowledged the order. Martinez could hear the excitement in their voices. These men and women had spent their lives preparing for this moment. Many of them were descendants of the original survivors of the alien attacks. Captain Chen approached the Admiral with a data pad. "Sir, intelligence reports that Federation forces are still responding to the Haven Point incident. Their fleets are scattered and confused. They do not know what hit them." Martinez nodded. The diplomatic meeting 3 days ago had been a perfect distraction. While the aliens were trying to figure out what had happened to their negotiators, human forces had been moving into position for the real attack. "What is the status of our advanced scouts?" Martinez asked. "All recon teams report successful infiltration of target systems," Chen replied. "Federation defenses are exactly as weak as we expected. Most of their military is concentrated in the core worlds, leaving the outer territories almost unprotected." Martinez smiled. The aliens had made the same mistake that overconfident species always made. They had assumed that their enemies would fight the way they expected them to fight. But humans had learned to fight differently. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Dr. Lisa Park on New Geneva," Chen said. "She says it is urgent." Martinez accepted the transmission. Dr. Park appeared on the main screen, her face serious and worried. "Admiral Martinez, I need to speak with you about the archaeological discovery on New Geneva. The files we found change everything about what we know of human history." "Doctor, I am aware of your discovery," Martinez said. "In fact, those files helped us plan this operation. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity remembers its history very well." Dr. Park shook her head. "Admiral, you do not understand. The files show that not all alien species were involved in the attacks on humanity. Some of them tried to help us. Some of them voted against the containment protocols." Martinez frowned. "Doctor, that information is not relevant to current operations." "Admiral, if we attack indiscriminately, we will be no better than the species that tried to destroy us. We will become the very thing we claim to be fighting against." Martinez cut the transmission. Dr. Park meant well, but she did not understand. Military necessity. In war, there were no innocent bystanders. Every alien species that had remained silent while humanity suffered was complicit in the crime. "Admiral, we are receiving distress calls from Federation territory," Captain Chen reported. "It sounds like our advance forces have begun their attacks." On the tactical display, Martinez could see reports coming in from a dozen different systems. Human stealth ships were hitting alien colonies and outposts throughout the outer territories. For the first time in 3 centuries, humans were attacking openly instead of from the shadows. "Sir, Federation news networks are broadcasting emergency alerts," Chen said. "They are calling this an invasion by unknown forces." Martinez laughed. "Unknown forces. Even now, they cannot believe that humans are capable of this." The fleet began to move toward their first target, a heavily populated system called Harmony Station. It was home to over 50 million aliens from a dozen different species. It also contained the Federation's main communications hub for this sector of the galaxy. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from Harmony Station," Chen reported. "They are asking us to identify ourselves and state our intentions." "Put them on screen," Martinez ordered. The main display showed a frightened-looking Zephyrian in a Federation uniform. Behind him, Martinez could see other aliens running around in panic. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Zarvol of Harmony. Station, you have entered Federation space without authorization. Please identify yourselves immediately." Martinez stepped forward. "Commander, this is Admiral Martinez of the Human Colonial Fleet. You are occupying territory that belongs to humanity. You have 30 minutes to evacuate all personnel before we destroy your station." The alien stared at him in shock. "Human Colonial Fleet? That is impossible. Humans do not have the capability for interstellar warfare." "Commander, you have 29 minutes. Martinez cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Lieutenant Karen Walsh, prepare all batteries for bombardment. I want that station reduced to scrap metal." Lieutenant Walsh was the daughter of Colonel Ben Hayes, one of the most famous covert operatives in human history. She had inherited her father's cold efficiency when it came to eliminating enemies. Weapons charged and ready, Admiral, Walsh reported. All targets locked. On the tactical display, Martinez could see small ships leaving Harmony Station as the aliens began to evacuate. But there were too many people on the station and not enough time. Most of them would not escape before the bombardment began. Martinez felt no sympathy for them. These aliens had built their civilization on the graves of dead humans. Now it was time for them to pay the price. Admiral, we are receiving transmissions from other Federation systems, Chen said. They are calling for help. Some of them are offering to surrender. There will be no surrenders, Martinez said. We did not ask for surrender when they attacked our worlds. Fire when ready. The Reckoning's main guns fired, sending streams of energy across space to impact Harmony Station. The station's shields lasted only a few seconds before collapsing. Secondary explosions rippled through the structure as vital systems overloaded. Within minutes, Harmony Station was nothing but drifting debris and emergency pods. The 50 million aliens who had lived there were either dead or floating helplessly in space waiting for rescue that would never come. Target destroyed, Admiral, Lieutenant Walsh reported. Moving to next objective. The fleet advanced deeper into Federation territory. Behind them, they left a trail of burning worlds and shattered dreams. The galaxy was learning what 3 centuries of human anger looked like when it was finally unleashed. Admiral, we are receiving reports from our other task forces, Chen said. Task Force Vengeance has destroyed the Krell homeworld. Task Force Justice has eliminated the Hegemony Council. Task Force Retribution is advancing on the galactic core. Martinez nodded with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. Human forces were striking simultaneously across hundreds of light years, destroying the infrastructure and leadership of the species that had tried to destroy humanity. Sir, we are detecting massive refugee movements throughout Federation space, Chen reported. Millions of aliens are fleeing toward the galactic center. Let them run, Martinez said. Fear is a good teacher. Maybe their children will learn to respect human territory. The Reckoning entered its next target system, a world called New Prosperity. It was home to the descendants of the aliens who had planned the original attacks on humanity. Martinez had been looking forward to this particular target. As the planet burned below them, Martinez thought about the future. Humanity would not stop with the destruction of the Federation. There were other alien powers deeper in the galaxy, species that had remained neutral during humanity's darkest hour. They would all learn the same lesson. The galaxy belonged to the strong, and humanity had become the strongest predator of all. Admiral, incoming transmission from the galactic core, Chen said. Multiple species are requesting negotiations. Martinez smiled. Tell them that humanity is no longer interested in negotiations. Tell them that the age of human diplomacy ended 300 years ago when they chose war instead of peace. He looked out at the burning planet below and felt a sense of completion.